I think there's no question that the country and the media is numb to it. The threshold in this moment is very simple. Everything that Donald Trump says should be taken literally and seriously. What he did today was threaten the employees, the journalists at NBC News. What he said more broadly is he's going to shut down the free media in the United States. What he announced today as a candidate for president in 2023 is he's coming after the American media. He's coming after his political opponents. Why is he running for president? He's running for retribution. Retribution, according to Donald Trump, is a philosophy of avenging anybody who was against him. So we are on the edge of an abyss in this country. And it seems that there is a paralysis, a numbness, a total disregard for the clear and present threat. There is something extraordinary happening. The people who are trying to tear down democracy in the country keep telling the rest of the country what it is they plan to do, to such a degree that they have announced their plans 6 months into 2025 to have taken apart the whole of the federal government. Now, since FDR's time in office, the legislative metric in the United States has been 100 days, not 6 months. This is a racist code whistle to every white supremacist in the country because it's how long it took Adolf Hitler to take Weimar Germany to a complete and total dictatorship. That included, by the way, the military swearing an oath of allegiance, not to the nation, but to the Fuhrer. And the military was the institution amongst many in Germany that were the last holdouts to this. But once he was in power, they were the first to submit. And what Donald Trump is signaling to the officer corps of the American military, you get in line behind me, the leader, not the idea, not the Constitution, or I'm coming for you too. This is an epically dangerous moment.
These clowns over at MSNBC are so utterly delusional. They're actually comparing Trump to who else but Hitler. And they're doing this at the very same time the Canadian Parliament is giving a standing ovation to a freaking Nazi soldier. I mean, you can't make this carnivalesque absurdity up. Greetings, everyone. It's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you think better so you can feel better in these crazy and insane and turbulent times. If you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, make sure to share this video with friends and family. We are once again, unfortunately, being throttled by big tech, so I need your help to get the hopeful message of this channel out to as many people as possible. So what you just heard was, of course, but the latest meltdown in the legacy media. They're utterly panicked over the collapse of their weekend at Bernie's candidate, Sleepy Joe, and the surging rise of one Donald J. Trump. That was the deranged former Republican strategist, if you can believe it, Steve Schmidt. Again, what Trump did more than anything else in many ways is he brought to the surface, he brought to the light the Gollum-esque filth that passed themselves off as Republicans. People like Schmidt, people like Rick Wilson of the utterly odious and filthy Lincoln Project, of which Schmidt was a part of as well. George Wills, Liz Cheney, all these vile leftist liberals, they all dwelt in the darkness of the swamp's caves, soaking in the preciousness of the power and affluence they achieved as supposed Republicans. But they were all outed through this wonderful condition known as TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. And they were exposed through this TDS virus to be the swamp-infected zombies they really, well, they always were. And as you can see, for so-called Republicans like Steve Schmidt, there's not a dime's worth of difference between them and any run-of-the-mill woke leftists at MSNBC like Joy Reid or Rachel Maddow. And so what you saw there was an unhinged rant over Trump coming after his political opponents, specifically He was commenting on Trump's promise to come after the corrupt NBC. Trump took Truth Social and he wrote the other day, quote, "I say up front openly and proudly that when I win the presidency of the United States, they and others of the lamestream media will be thoroughly scrutinized for their knowingly dishonest and corrupt coverage of people, things, and events. Why should NBC or any other of the corrupt and dishonest media companies be entitled to use the very valuable airwaves of the USA free? They're a true threat to democracy and are, in fact, the enemy of the people. And fake news media should pay a big price for what they've done to our once great country." To which I and tens of millions say simply, amen. The legacy media has deliberately attempted to thwart free and fair elections in the United States, most especially or most recently in their cover-up of the Hunter Biden laptop, not to mention their participation in the whole Russian collusion fiasco from 2016 and their enthusiastic embracing of what's called advocacy journalism, which is just a fancy way of describing the peddling of pure propaganda. They are the enemy of the American people. But it's what this guy is really doing here in this rant that I think is most instructive in terms of the psychology of the woke left. And that is exactly what we're going to uncover. But first, you know how you can really stick it to the woke left? It's just by clicking on the link below and getting your very own set of these collectible, limited supply Trump cards. Patriots played their anti-globalist Trump card against the left in 2016, and we're getting ready to play it all over again in 2024. So what better way to show your support for Trump's re-election than with these 5 collectible pieces of Trump art? These cards have a limited supply, so don't wait. Only 2,500 sets of these cards are set to be made, and they all come with a certificate of authenticity verifying you own an original set. These make great gifts for any MAGA patriot in your life, and if you buy 2 sets, you also get a bonus gold Trump 2024 card absolutely free. These physical cards are high quality, made in America, and highly collectible. But again, there's only a limited supply, so don't wait. By the time you remember, they'll likely all be gone. So click on that link below right now and get your Trump cards today. What you and I were ultimately just treated to in that MSNBC rant, the latest of a series of unhinged rants, of course, is a phenomenon known as projection, which scholar Victor Davis Hanson defines as a psychopolitical syndrome of attributing all of one's own sins to one's opponents. What that fellow Steve Schmidt did there in that rant is a classic case of political and psychological projection. Again, we could foreground the irony of how these comments were made in the wake of the woke leftist Canadian government giving a standing ovation to a literal Nazi. The actual honoring of a former Nazi soldier takes a back seat to the virtue signaling accusations against the soon-to-be 47th president of these United States. This guy, Schmidt, has the gall to accuse President Trump of seeking to persecute his political opponents. And yet, when Trump himself was indicted, when Trump was himself politically persecuted with dozens upon dozens of felony charges, this same clown, Steve Schmidt, openly celebrated it. He championed the indictments, declaring in unison with the uniparty media, no one is above the law. Of course, I thought the presumption of innocence was a fundamental American value, but apparently not for the likes of Steve Schmidt. Schmidt has openly advocated the full weaponization of the law against his political adversary, Donald Trump. And yet, what is he accusing President Trump of doing? Or even better, of threatening? Note, he admits Trump hasn't even actually done anything as of yet. This is what's called projection. It's ascribing to others the very sins of which you yourself are guilty. Some consider it a kind of Freudian effort, an almost atheist version of confession or medieval penance. And, you know, there's something to that. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Polish psychologist Andrew Lobachevsky. He's studied the Marxist elite for upwards of 40 years in a field of study he pioneered called political ponerology. Ponerology comes from the Greek poneros, which means evil. So it's the study of political evil. And this fellow Lobachevsky concluded that all of these woke leftist Marxists really are all actual psychopaths. They're not just wrong or mistaken or even just frankly, mentally ill. They're psychopaths. And when the world is run politically by psychopaths, it becomes hysterical. It literally becomes insane. And so we're actually had critical studies of far leftists like Lobachevsky's come to the conclusion that these people are not merely mentally ill. He really believed these people were full-blown psychopaths. And this is where projection comes in. It's like a strange form of penance on their part. These woke monsters know they're evil, and they're looking for some kind of scapegoat to impute their sins to and have those sins punished. But of course, because they're narcissistic psychopaths, that punishment by definition has to involve someone else other than them. So this is precisely what I think we just witnessed in this unhinged meltdown at MSNBC. And if these polls that have just come out of late are any indicator, these psychotic, narcissistic meltdowns are just beginning. Hey gang, I know what it's like to feel alone out there in these turbulent times, but I broke free. If you too have been looking for a community with like-minded patriots who are serious about resisting globalism, building a parallel economy, and having intelligent and deep fellowship on a regular basis, then you've come to the right place. In my Courageous Patriot Insiders community, we're building a close-knit movement of, by, and for patriots who are breaking free from the outrage and despair cycles of the mainstream media and taking on the fight against globalism. Every week, I deep dive into the content I can't share on big tech and give you the cliff notes on the truth of how patriots just like you are building up their communities, starting patriot businesses, and fighting the woke in both public and private. All with a few history and political lessons from yours truly, of course. If you want to stop feeling alone as a patriot and stand together with this fast-growing community, be sure to click on the link in the description below. Don't wait. Join me and my Patriot Coalition today, and let's get fighting.